Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bill Carell and Lisa Sheehan. We're buddies. In full disclosure, we like each other, and we've known each other now for going on a couple of years. We This is now our sort of 55th or 56th podcast that we're doing together, and we lovingly call this effort on our part lighting the candle, a world that works. So we're speaking into existence this land of opportunity and empowerment, where all people have a birthright to wake up and live in an empowerment zone that's any place that they go all day long. And this is regardless of who you meet, what's going on, and how it strikes you. So in the last half hour, well, Lisa, would you like to say something about the last half hour?
The last half hour, we got started with mindfulness and mindset and how important they are in structuring your life to focus on that North Star that you should have. And if you don't, think about it so that you can have one so that you can follow it and not get thrown off your path too easily.
Perfect. And for those of you that are listening to that, like you should have a North Star, well, no, most people don't, as a matter of fact. Most people are subject to the whims of all the other North Star people that they come into contact with. So it seems like they're always running around in circles, chasing their tails. The whole idea of creating some sort of internal, uh, you know, geodesic dome of operation where you're deciding in advance what's out of bounds and what's in bounds, so that when you get to the edges, you can start asking questions. What's up with this? But if you are putting your navigation system on full tilt boogie towards a place in the future, you will be very busy accomplishing things, enjoying every single moment, potentially. You'll have setbacks in life, and then the question is how long is that period of being disempowered going to last for you? Is this something that takes days for you to get back on your game again, or does it take hours? Does it take minutes? Does it take a quick second where you have a state change and go right back to being the absolutely phenomenal human being, living your life powerfully and in an empowered state every single moment that you are awake enough to ask the question? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's, yeah, and I shouldn't, or should not, I shouldn't should all over everybody.
It's a habit that we all have.
I
We
know, but I usually conscious of it, so it's like, but I could be one of those things that almost deserves it.
true. In a lot of cases, if there's an idea or a concept or maybe a process or system that somebody else proffers, it will sound to you like, I really ought to really consider that or take the time that it takes to fully understand it to see whether or not that's going to be a boost, to my satisfaction level, so that I'm always and everywhere able to choose having the best day ever.
I think one of the things that falls into that edge of the dome too is the power of the word no. That you can say no to things, and I think that you know my generation, our generation, growing up, it wasn't a tool that we were taught that much either. So, um, you don't have to do it all. You can say no. There are some things you can let go by the wayside and not worry about the consequences, except mostly to yourself, which will affect everybody in your circle too.
I'm thinking while you're talking, there were aspects of the word no around my home when I was growing up that were downright dangerous. They usually were met with some sort of physical violence, not an enhanced conversation, if you will.
Right.
Right? Get the back of a hand or something like that. I don't have time to talk to 6 kids. I'm tired. I just got home from work. You know, mom gives me a report and then I go wading through the room, hitting first, asking questions later, you know, all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
I think it takes on different contexts as to whatever age group you're in.
exactly. I came from the spare the rod, spoil the child, and children are made to be seen and not heard generation.
Yeah, I'll give you something to cry about.
Yeah, exactly. You think you got it bad now. You ain't seen nothing yet. So,
But I think we've become so busy, especially in our, working lives, only out of what we feel is, sheer necessity, that we just commit to too many things
sure.
and feel guilty to say no.
Exactly. You know, and I come full circle around to what is the cost of children being raised without a really wonderful self-image? And you don't have to look very far. I mean, when you look at, and I'm not talking about disadvantaged children or children with no parents. I'm talking about how most kids in a bell curve, there's a small percentage that get out of high school that have a real strong idea and a desire, and they know where they're going, you know, at least a plan, like you said, you know, to be a copywriter or to be, for me, when I was in high school, I wanted to work at an ad agency in Madison Avenue, New York, doing commercial art and that sort of thing, whatever that meant. But if you think about, most kids get out of school and over half have no next step. You know, even the kids that are going to a vocational school or are going to go get a job immediately, the other half these days don't have an idea of where they want to go after the school, 12 years is over. So that leads them with this kind of a void in terms of their own personal value, because whether we like it or not, other things equal, we gain a lot of our self-worth and value out of our interactions with other people and whether those are valuable. Yes?
Yes.
So in a perfect world, if we had, the population trained to define their own self-value, can you imagine what that would be like to have a culture where people are unmessable?
Right. And that's what, or unmessable, yeah. Well, that would be interesting. But like we were talking, it has to start young. And mindset is a huge part of it. And then, having that compass point and stick to itiveness. I was watching a commencement speech. Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones was doing it, and he said he got off course because he stopped believing in his acting career. So he spent 10 years being a data systems inputter kind of thing, and then finally said, I am just going to take any acting job I can, because he had poo-pooed the other things, TV, no, not for me kind of thing.
Yes.
And then he, so it's just a matter of not being so full of yourself either, too, that you won't see that is your North Star.
Yeah, it's funny, while you're speaking, all sorts of different things are going through my mind, and there are lots of great songs, that kind of highlight the whole idea that most kids get out of high school or college believing that they're geniuses and should probably move right, to the corner office, do not pass go, do not pass, collect $200. Do you remember Jim Croce's song, Working at the Car Wash Blues?
Oh, shoot, yeah.
Yeah. A man of my ability should be smoking on a big cigar.
Yeah.
And I told him that, he wasn't impressed by the fact that I'm a genius. He said, we got all of those we can use, So I've got those steadily depressing, low down, mind messing, working at the Car Wash Blues. I think I said something that was copyrighted there. So I did attribute it to Jim Croce, who I miss, terribly. Great mind.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So here we are, You know, we've talked about mindfulness and mindset, and again, it's not like it's better or should. It may make some things available to people who are out there asking questions about where they are, or why life isn't giving them what they're asking for. You know, the whole notion of, let's just, go to the fundamentals of law of attraction stuff for a minute. In my opinion, I think this is probably one of the most uh, let's just say misunderstood notions of what we all have as a birthright. And I'll give you some evidence for that. I do think that there's a propensity for people to think that talk alone will get them what they want. But we've had this conversation before about there being three different kinds of language, that human beings have to take into consideration. Talk is one of them. That's representational. That's where we have agreement on what things are and how to manipulate, the voices and the words and the letters on the paper, the ink, so that we can hand it to somebody else and they're at least in the right church in terms of what we're trying to communicate to them. There's another one, which I think is between living things. This could be animals, birds, people. There's this thing called an immediate reaction, which is almost totally emotional, and yet there does seem to be, some sort of a system to it. So, for instance, if you smile at somebody, the first thing they do is to smile back. Try this when you drive around a really bad neighborhood, or that you consider in your mind to be a bad neighborhood. Do this when you're driving by people in their car. If they don't have it, with the dark reflective stuff so you can't see in. They don't have a choice. It's like automatic. They have to mirror what they're getting from you. So if the smile is mirrored, what about your other behaviors? What about your other nonverbal behaviors? So can you talk to your animal by never making anything other than a gesture and a smile? Or a look and cocking your head. My cat knows that when I do that, he needs to stop what he's doing right now. How does he know that? Well, we've been together for 18 and a half years, right?
Right.
And then the third one is this whole mechanism of object to object, where things crash into each other. Like, what is the impingement of the Empire State Building on its environment? If you don't take into consideration that the Empire State Building is there and you try to drive your car through that space, what's going to happen like 99 and a half times out of 100?
Halt.
Right. So what if it's not just enough to have a really intelligent mind and a great way of speaking? For a lot of people, that, especially in academia, that's all they ever needed, right? Until they have to start publishing books, and then that's where the other two kinds of language come into play. But for an instance, just imagine that if people realize that the energy of the universe is generated by any of those three things happening, and they are the strongest when all three line up together. What if that's so? That life is not just about affirmations, and life is not just about self-talk. What if life is about actively letting the rest of the people around you know, this is what I'm up to, this is what I'm attracting? And then you start to understand why the people that you have in your life are showing up over and over again. They're not there necessarily for you to say hello to, have a network meeting with, and then go away and never see them again.
No,
yeah. Lisa, imagine for a minute that every person that you meet for the rest of this week, let's just say until close of business tomorrow on Friday, they're here to answer your prayer. All you have to do is to know how to ask.
Right. Or that's simple. You can look at everything as if it's a miracle, or you can look at everything as if it's not a miracle. What your eyes are open to. Synchronicities are always there. You just don't, if you don't have your heart and mind open to them.
Sure. Yeah, there's an amazing relationship and correlation to what you want to happen and what actually does happen. That's part of that goal accomplishment thing. For example, 30 years ago, I'd never owned a Mercedes. 35 years ago. So I wrote my goals down. And the goal that I wrote was I will have a red Mercedes diesel that costs less than $15,000. It will be in my driveway 1 year from now. I went and found a 1982 300D about a month later. I mean, this is after looking diligently. My affirmation became instruction set, the programming level that I looked at it every single day. And then I'll be darned if I didn't start seeing, red Mercedes everywhere. And some of them were diesels and some of them weren't. So I found this red Mercedes diesel with 40,000 miles on it. This is 1986. This is a 4-year-old car. And as you know, Mercedes back in the 1980s cost probably, that particular model in 1982 probably was a $35,000 or $38,000 car, more or less. Well, I paid $12,000 for it. And so how do all of those things come together at the same time? There's a great story for it. Well, pick one that empowers you. Pick that story that makes life easier to play. You know what I'm saying?
Or more fun, too. But you took action too, and which is, like you were saying,
yes,
affirmations are not going to get your wishes fulfilled by themselves.
Yes. So guess what? I go to register this beautiful little red car, which was the Mercedes color was Orient red. For those of you that have had that vintage of Mercedes, I go to register it. I get into line. I got my paperwork up there, and the gal at the motor vehicle department reaches down, and she hands me a license plate that says 298 FMD. And I said, that's pretty cool. I said, do you have 300 FMD by any chance? And she said, I do. Here it is. So my license plate for my first Mercedes diesel, which was a 300, okay?
Wow.
That's what the license plate said. 2 things had to happen. 1, my antenna were up. Number 2, I asked the question. I could have just taken 298 FMD, but I kept playing the game, right?
Yep.
This will be a chapter in my upcoming book. But
it should be.
So the fun of all of it is that as I drove my car around and people got to see it for the first time, they all thought that I paid a lot more money for it than I did. And I was quick to correct everybody, and they said, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And how did you get that vanity plate, first Mercedes diesel, right? So it's just crazy to me. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And part of the reason why I'm committed to doing this podcast is that there are people who are going through some very difficult times in their life right now. For many people, the shutdown because of COVID was very difficult.
Right.
A whole range of emotions, things that just got jumbled up. I know a lot of people that are going through worse than that, contemplating going out and being with large groups of people that they have no way of knowing whether or not they've actually had their vaccines.
Right. Yeah, that's a strange new world.
So what you can do in those circumstances is make your mind up ahead of time where you will play and where you will not play. Make your own rules for operating in this environment, and make sure that you are constantly paying attention, are in the moment, and that Jesus Jones song, right here, right now, there is no other place I want to be, right?
Well, because it's one of those things that you probably don't aren't aware of until other people point it out, because I am constantly aware of my surroundings, and I've always been that way.
Yes.
So, I mean, and that comes into play, and it should be relied upon more so by people. Your own, you have to watch out for yourself, kind of thing. Well, like you said, follow what you I was thinking this could be a tiny North Star for your own health and sanity. Be aware of where you are all the time and what you need to be happening in every moment, in every situation, in every environment.
Yeah, and the other part of it is to be really set in your decision about how much time you're going to waste being upset, or how much time you're going to waste in your life having a question that you don't ask.
Oh, I'm sure people, even in conversations these days, person I know very well was upset because they wanted to change, the language from men and women to people. And then we were in a conversation and another person said, but what bothers you about saying people? And there wasn't anything, it's just because of the idea of changing something that's been in play for so long.
Well, that's interesting. This may have nothing to do with that. And there have been legislative attempts to dictate what people will refer to people who are non-binary or transgender or those sorts of things. And the really interesting part of it is, in a free country, it's voluntary whether or not you go along, with that. When the government is telling you what you must think, for instance, that he and she has to be people now, I mean, that's really cool. I'm an old dog. I don't know how many new tricks I can keep learning on a weekly basis.
Oh, I know. And there's a lot of new tricks, that's for sure. And
as soon as you think you've got the old tricks figured out, we're going to whip another whole new set on you. You can't get too comfortable for too long around here,
That's where intense listening has been coming in too, because, to hear other people's reasons or ideas, and then roll it around and without, an immediate reaction.
Exactly. Instead of no, then the curious mind basically says, tell me more. What's up with that? What's this do for you? I mean, how does this make your world a better place? Tell me what I'm contributing to. What's on the other side of me changing my behavior? I really want to know.
Exactly. But you are not the common man.
Well, you know what? That may or may not be, may be, closer to the common man than you think. I just happen to be somebody that it got interesting to me to get trained to go beyond the hi, how are you? My name's Bill. Nice tie.
Which is the power and beauty of networking. I mean, I think that's what you start to learn, even if it starts off being a business kind of atmosphere. It ends up being so much more.
Yeah.
And I love networking for that reason, either in person or even have to be online, currently, but
yeah. I know it's been a famous thing for me to say, I love all 7.5 billion. I have a few more to meet, I just don't know them all by name yet. And, it's extraordinary for us to have this time one-on-one, Lisa. I really value your thinking. I value where you come from. You are a trained mindset and mindfulness person, and you are at it. I don't know how many hours a week you spend on podcast calls, groups with, Tony Robbins and different brilliant minds that all they're doing is allowing for the clamshell mentality to open up just a little bit. Let's shine some possibility on this, this darkness. Let's light the candle,
Last night the class I was taking was a course on a new look at the Beatitudes. the Christian Beatitudes, you know, and
Sure.
how they were left a long time ago, you know, and just to look at them from the point of view of, you know, really what was Jesus talking about, you know, let's go back. And is the current religious structure adhering to those kind of philosophies and teachings?
Exactly. But that's a great question. How
Mhm.
are they, and where's the possibility for us all to do a better job together? And not about making people wrong or calling people out for getting it incorrect. How about the more you bring something up in conversation, the more alive it is? It becomes a possibility, the Beatitudes.
Which were the compassion piece came in. Yeah. The compassion piece came in that way too, because we can't, even for religious structures to, you know, we have to accept where they are right now, and even people within their congregations, how they feel, you know, because it's a dangerous and very personal part of people's lives, dangerous in the effect that they don't want to be threatened or questioned specifically about, you know, what they're doing, but to have these open conversations or the possibilities of these things happening, where you maybe, you know, in the very near future we'll be able to go into religious institutions and say, you know, what about this, you know, why are we doing that, or how can we make it better for all? Like you
Agreed.
said, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, there's so much richness in every sentence, that comes out of you. And I think the main thing with all of this is that if you work on creating yourself as a person of matter and a person of substance with regard to value, intrinsic value, just because you are who you are, not because of any degree that you have or any recent thing that you've done that worked out. And then having that trust level, which you have to build, inside of you first, before you can actually see that in the world around you. And when that trust level is evident to other people that you're in conversation with, I don't even want to speculate at what kind of conversations you're going to have with human beings, because that trust makes everything possible.
Definitely, and that's, trust is huge, and I think it's one of my gifts growing up too, is I've been blessed with a lot of friends, but and it's more recent language to say that I worked at it. I didn't work at it. It was just part of me, you
Yeah,
know, and I was just lucky, not lucky, but it, like you said, family was, you know, that kind of Norse, that familial kind of point to strive for, but friendship and compassion and just knowing people as they are, meeting people as they are,
sure.
has been something that I've just always done. So I just want to expand the stage, so to speak, of who I can meet.
And that's so well said. For me, it's always about family. My brother and sister, what's it? My brother from another mother and my sister from another mister, or all of that stuff, whatever it
Yeah.
is, that gives you goosebumps because you just met some really cool people that, had you not met them, you wouldn't have the goosebumps. So let's go for goosebumps, like, all the time. What's she call them? J Lo. She calls them goosies. I think that's pretty cool. So Lisa, we're at the end of another half hour on this spotlight, lighting the candle, a world that works. Would you like to summarize our time together today?
I think the beauty of being able to find your center and hold on to that no matter what life may throw at you. And we've had a lot thrown at us this year. Um, and to be mindful of every moment and be prepared for miracles all the time.
Yes. That is completely awesome. And thank you for being here to share a miracle with me over the last hour. It's been amazing as usual, my friend.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And so that's it. That's our time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being a part of it. And we hope that there's some empowerment coming your way and more shows up for you later on. Adios.
Thanks for being amazing.
And keep it up. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, A World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.